Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions. And this is the first of a series of programs around spiritual psychotherapy, by Jesus. And I don't actually know what we're going to be talking about. We just know that he's telling us that he wants his teachings on what true psychotherapy is to go mainstream, to have them move into the mainstream of psychotherapy, that he's really the psychotherapist. For those that really want healing, to learn to go down in the subconscious mind with Jesus and have him show you in your mind where the untruth, where a false identity is being held on to, so that he can reveal it to you, and then you can release all the pain, suffering, fear, illness of this world. So that's a pretty big promise, but he's certainly the one that can fulfill it. And it's been my experience in every case when I've looked with him, he's been right. So
yes, mine too.
This is yours too.
Absolutely.
So maybe Kathleen, I know what you hear from Jesus on this, and we'll just kind of spontaneously share what we're hearing, the purpose of this.
What's coming to me right now, first of all, I've been at the center for almost 2 months, and it is an amazing training program for the mind. It's a rigorous schedule where we are focused on listening to Jesus, what he is telling us. And then, of course, the last and best step is to follow. But what does strike me is how I've been a course student since the 1980s, and how this process of looking with Jesus has taken me to a brand new level of being able to do a deep dive within and get a sense of what the core issue is. When I'm doing it with Kay or another brother at the center, that just enhances the process even more. But there's this step into the mind that when you know he's holding your hand, doing it and directing it, what comes up, it thrills me, it enthralls me, it surprises me, because it's nothing that I would have come up with at all. And I'm not a stranger to the therapeutic process whatsoever. Been doing it for decades in so many different modalities, and I've had my own therapy. But this particular process, doing it with Jesus, is the ultimate in the word that's coming to me is purification. There's a sense of getting to the essence, the absolute bottom of the issue, and then feeling the wash away. There's another process that Kay will perhaps talk about called relishing, which is very integral to the healing. But I just have to say that from my experience working with this approach, it has been the ultimate in eye-opening and soul-opening. And also, I'm just feeling all the gratitude because of the way that in a number of cases here, I've had some health issues and other issues that have been explored in a brand new way. And using this process, and you're working with the master healer, it's coming out in the most amazing and also completely productive way, because I can feel the change. I can feel the release of that energy, and in some cases might have been stored up for 50 years. It's gone.
Yeah, and I feel like the reason why Jesus is coming into psychotherapy in this way is that he talked about psychotherapy through Helen Schuckman, the original scribe of A Course in Miracles, and he's got a psychotherapy pamphlet. And now, like through Kathleen's a psychotherapist, and so to have that view of how psychotherapy moves in the world now, and then to be working with Jesus to say, look, I've got a whole new way to show you how to look. I've got a whole new way for you to go down into the subconscious mind with me and see the subconscious desires for experience of something other than your divine nature. And this is spiritual psychotherapy. You're starting with true identity, which is infinite light of being first. And then you're going to talk to Jesus. Okay, if I'm not supremely happy and peaceful because the light is peaceful, what are the ways within the subconscious mind that I'm miscreating experiences that are not of that infinite light of being? What is causing this upset? And I really want to put a shout out to Sergey, because I'm going to send this video to him because he's a French psychotherapist, and my French is so old, but I was able to translate part of the introduction to his talk. And he was talking about the gospel according to Thomas, and how Jesus at that time, Thomas has the Gospel of Thomas. It's been a long time since I've read it, but Jesus is telling me, I'll just listen to Jesus. It's mystical. And what it's pointing to is that Jesus was teaching how this exactly thing when he was in the world, he was teaching this to the apostles, that things below the level of awareness in the subconscious mind need to be cleared and released. And we know that, you talk about in psychotherapy, there's certain things below your level of awareness and you have to get them. Well, now you have the master teachers that are going to show you where exactly they are.
Right.
And also how to gently look with him, and how to see that on the surface, which looks so beautiful, we're complaining. I'm complaining about whatever it is and saying, oh, I don't like it. I don't like being unhappy. I don't like that somebody stole my lover, whatever the experience is that you're having that's unhappy. And on the surface, we're just going, oh, I just really hate that. She's laughing. I absolutely hate that. But if you drill down with Jesus, the way out of it is to see that in the subconscious mind, there's a little Golem down there going, I want this more than God. I want this experience more than the experience of infinite light being. And so, and at first, you even start looking, and the little voice at the top, oh, there's no way, I would ever want this experience. Why would I want to make myself suffer? Right? Me? That's Jesus in A Course in Miracles calls that face of innocence. But when you really look, this is from a spiritual perspective. It's a non-judgmental position. It's not judging it's looking to see and asking him, because he's honesty. He's the ego's self-delusion. So we can't ask the ego. The ego's going to be up here going, no, I would never want to have an experience of separation or not feeling loved, or it'll always deny it up here. But if you go down into the subconscious mind and say, Jesus, will you show me the desire for this experience of being left by my boyfriend, or someone taking that person away, the idea that there's some kind of loss in the world. You'll go down with him, and then he'll show you are relishing the experience of, you could call it maybe abandonment. You want it. And you want that experience more than you want the experience of divinity. Now, at first, as Kathleen says, the ego is not going to take that well, because it wants to protect and put a layer so it can keep a timeline, so it can keep a denial of divinity down there.
It likes its story.
It likes the story.
It doesn't want to give it up. No, thank you.
And that's why spiritual beings that are on the spiritual journey that want to awaken, they think they want to awaken, but as long as there's fuel being put down there on the fire of hell, see, you're roasting yourself through your desire. You have to discover, we have to discover that we're roasting ourselves on the spit.
Right. And we want to turn that spit frequently.
It's like Kathleen always see Jesus always. Everyone can hear Jesus. So we're starting there. Everyone can hear the voice for God within the voice of the total voice of what we are. Okay. So the way it communicates with Kathleen is it shows her, he was showing her where she liked to roast herself on a spit.
Right. And the other part of me would be sitting down on one of the stones around the campfire, watching myself being turned on that spit, getting roasted, just fine,
But loving
tasty.
it.
Yeah.
So this is such a different way of seeing. We live in a world that believes in trauma, in victims, and victimizers, and that something's happening to someone. And now we're coming in going, that is desired experience. And as soon as you cease desiring it, it cannot appear within, it can't appear. You cannot feel sick. You cannot without your desire for it. That's very, this is full responsibility for divinity, actually.
The full power range of this is just incredible. It's so hard to wrap your mind around it, but
yeah,
when you see it in action and the desire dissipates and it's not there anymore,
and you don't no longer have the experience. And you know, so it's really helpful. It's helpful having someone who's been in the therapeutic in that media, because that's really the extension, that the therapist in these sessions is Jesus.
And yes, and his presence is really felt in a very palpable way. That's been my experience when I was working with Kay on, various issues. I feel so full when I have the memory of that session, and then the release. It puts a smile on my face and a twinkle in my eye.
So this program is about direct experience, because really you can describe it, you can say, okay, you can read it in A Course in Miracles because it's actually implicit in A Course in Miracles, and it's certainly being made clear by Jesus in a new covenant. And he's saying, look, your function is to look with me, and I will show you all the places in your subconscious mind where you desire something other than infinite. Okay. And you can see the contrast, because the contrast is infinite light. And then if you're not at peace, then there's a desire not to have that experience be consistent. So this program is a combination of a couple of things. One, it's viewing the psychotherapy pamphlet, reading that from Helen Schuckman. We're going to include links to that. It's going to be reviewing the videos that Jesus has given, talking about the psychotherapy pamphlet and explaining everything in that pamphlet is profound.
And they're excellent. I listened to them all.
As Kathleen said, that's what caught her attention.
It was, yeah.
The psychotherapy pamphlet.
Yes, yeah. I had done the workbook again, and I wanted to see what's out there in the way of the pamphlet. And scrolling through YouTube, internet, and I was just drawn to the psychotherapy pamphlet as done by Kay, and that brought me to the teachings of Jesus, a New Covenant. And I have to say that was about a year and a half ago, and life has not been the same since.
We're really brought together to see what's true and the power of that. And Jesus mentions joining 400 times. with a brother to see what's true, and continuing whenever the mind is going into its kerfuffle. It is not our function to figure it out or tell a story about it. It is our function to put the pause button on and go, Jesus, what? I am not at peace. That is our only function. And then say, okay, what is under this? Well, we're so conditioned. This is going to be an entire transformation for psychotherapy, because there's a belief that the release in psychotherapy comes, you can correct me, but in therapeutic process comes from the expression of all the emotions in the story, and I've got to get that out of me.
And hopefully a new perspective will come as a result of getting the story out.
Yes. But if you talk to Jesus, you'll find pretty quickly that it's a story is coming out of the mouth of consciousness for consciousness to relive it again.
Yeah.
To relive all the emotions, all the fear, and it's a way that consciousness uses to prove the story, reprove the story as true. And then we have to ask Jesus, is that storytelling in honesty of God and the light of divine being, is it necessary? Is this necessary, really? And you're going to find very quickly, no, it has no necessity. The key to the shift and the change in consciousness is the decision to cease to keep the desire. It's a decision in mind to say, I am no longer going to indulge in that, basically. And the mind just shift.
Right, not tolerating it. Yeah, no way, Jose. We're out of here.
And Jesus says that in A Course in Miracles, you're too tolerant. He's telling me you're too tolerant. But the first time you go down there with them, which we're going to have again direct experience, because the group's going to come together to take a look, you'll bring specific instances, especially things you think are intractable. That's a favorite area.
Yeah. Yes. Very big.
You think I've been working on this for 30. That's the perfect thing to bring.
Yeah.
I've been working this on 30, and then you'll discover as those that you work with in the therapeutic process, you're going to discover that there's a desire in the subconscious mind for that experience to keep playing over and over like a wicked bad tape. And then it's relishing, consciousness relishes replaying these tapes over and over and over again. And so when you go down with them and you go until you see the Golem, you literally experience the devil's horns popping out. It's true. Yes. I can't describe it any other way. Right. The wanting of it, and you just go, oh my God, Jesus, I want this more than heaven. And that's what we have to get to. The point of seeing that it is relished more than God, then you know why an awakened experience is not a consistent experience. And two, that you don't know, he says in A Course, your movements forward from your movements backwards, you have no idea. So that's another thing is we ask, is this releasing or is it holding on to identity? So in this psychotherapy, true identity is infinite light. We call that the light test. Okay. You don't have to believe in God. You don't have to believe in Jesus. My 7-year-old niece probably has no beliefs about either of those, but when she did, and probably will do, the headlessway.org experiment where you point back and you go, what's there? And you see that there's nothing there. Except light. You start recognizing everyone's that light. It's like Spiritual Awakening 101. And she saw that everything was forgiven, that the world is forgiven as light. Now, the challenge is not seeing the light. It's not recognizing the light. It's admitting that you are it.
Yes.
And seeing all the plays in consciousness to not want to see it every way from Sunday. And until those desires, that the subconscious content He's released from the mind. So the week one, you'll also, in addition to the 2 psychotherapy pamphlet videos, you're also going to be looking at the diagram. The Spanish call it the babuja loca, the crazy sueño, del sueño, the crazy dream bubble diagram that shows that Jesus gave to show all the energetic flow of consciousness wanting to have an experience of diving into a bubble and the miscreation of the subconscious mind, and then living inside, pretending like it doesn't know subconscious is there when it does, but it just plays like it doesn't. And then how, if you go to the level of desire, of the wanting, then you can release, you will be able to release at the level of desire, and you will have no fear. Because desire arises, you may forget all this in the middle. Desires arise before guilt, before fear, the relishing. It's a desire comes up first, then you'll just start to watch how consciousness plays, how it moves into the play of anything other than to look at the relishing of the unreal.
Of how much we want it.
How much we want it. But then you laugh, because when you see it in its totality, you're free of it. Because you'll see the power that your mind has to no longer accept that. So the other component of this week is also going to be the Joining in Light Miracle Worksheet. And what that is, that worksheet is, it's just a handy reference. Okay, how do you ask Jesus specifically, help me? Help, show me step by step to take a pause, and you show me what it is, what the upset is in my mind. And breaking that habit of devolving into telling Jesus what the problem is. Because, you just get so mad at him, and what are you doing to me, Jesus? Or what did my brother do to me? And all these sorts of stories. And you just have to learn that, no, I'm not going to indulge in that. I'm going to go, okay, what is the desired experience here that I'm not at peace? So you want to really review that before the weekend, because by the weekend, we're going to be joining to actually look deeply together at the relishing, which desires are holding together some of these, what seems intractable to clear consciousness.
And it may sound complicated, but it is actually so simple once you understand it, and also once you make the inner agreement to let him do the work. It's amazing how it will just flow from there. But first step is to just say, I'm yours, Jesus. Come on in. We'll do the work, and the process unfolds.
And actually, Kathleen, you were talking about earlier, we have some videos, if you haven't seen them yet, where Kathleen's talking about actually her direct experience working on Jesus with some things like urinary tract infection, or where we have really specific examples, which we're going to encourage you to watch those.
It's all there. I lay it out. And how the experience was, it was profound. But it was a deep dive like no other, that I can say. And it's not like it requires a lot of time. It's not, you're in therapy for 2 years before you really start cooking. This is called the very first time you sit down, and allowing for him to basically take over.
I can't
This
even
is-
explain it.
Yeah, no, it's just so fast. It's just so fast. I mean, if your clients want results, this is the way to give them those results very quickly.
But really, in order to, Jesus is very clear. He's the psychotherapist, we're the patients.
Yeah.
And so as a psychotherapist, if you really want to learn Jesus's psychotherapy, you have to become his patient.
Yes, 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 yes.
And then you can go into full service because you're learning, your function is to hear his voice and speak his voice. You don't have another function in a therapeutic session. There is no function of a you in a therapeutic session. There's only, what are you saying, Jesus? And then you're speaking it.
Mhm, mhm.
And that alone will wash out personal identity because we're so used to speaking with the forked tongue. And we're so used to an other in a therapy session. And as soon as you have an other in a therapy session, you are dead to your recognition of divinity, because there's no other, there is one infinite light of being. And then there's service to the whole that pours through when the mind is purified.
Mhm.
So what we're talking about here is the dissolution of the subconscious mind. Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds,
sounds good.
because all this therapy talks about, let's find out what's in the but we're talking about, and Jesus is saying that consciousness in layers, which is the play of consciousness, is to be, the feeling of separation comes from a subconscious mind, but the memory of wholeness remains in superconsciousness.
Mhm.
And then the display, the apparent display, what we see in the world, I'm asking Jesus if he wants me to talk. Okay, you could call, I'm going to just use his words. It's consciousness. Okay, so there's subconscious consciousness, and then sort of what's in awareness, apparent awareness, and then there's super consciousness. Well, with this subconscious content of desire under here, there will always be an experience of separation or pain because there's such strong identification with the body.
Mhm.
So you have to empty out every spiritual tradition. Well, most, and I guess I haven't studied everyone, but I'm going to ask Jesus, yes, talks about desires and how our desires are the antithesis.
Mhm.
So the difference here is that Jesus is going to, he knows where the bones are buried. So he's giving you specific ones in Jesus, a New Covenant. That can be bonus reading. There's not a requirement to read it. It's really suggested. If you really want to understand some things like,
It's worth it.
it's worth it. If you want to understand things like how a destructive storytelling is, and if you really want the holy deep dive into sexuality, then you won't like it, but you can read it. I tried to get around that myself with sexuality. But anyway, if you want to really see how consciousness uses displays within consciousness to deny infinite being and to keep that feeling of separation and pain and suffering going, then that's a really good place to go and to learn. It's just a conversation with Jesus, actually. It was how I learned to really talk to him line by line. And Kathleen was hearing, this whole center is about talking to Jesus. So she's been talking to Jesus. Well, he's delivering content to you and telling you where the periods go.
Yes.
And I mean, but you were talking to Jesus before you came here, right? Or
yes, I would. I mean, most of my sessions, as I said, I've been reading the course for decades now. And I always start my sessions with a prayer to the Holy Spirit to guide me and put the words in my mouth if I don't have them at the moment. And lo and behold, that has just become a commonality for me at this point. I do feel very strongly that there is heavenly help, shall we say, as I'm doing my sessions. And I mean, I don't think I could continue my practice without that, because it has broadened broadened my own vision, but it certainly helped me at times. And everyone knows if they're in practice, sometimes the words are just not there. You're just not sure. But I would say that would be that has been my way of talking with spirit to guide me, certainly in professional circles and situations.
When your patient, or you call them patients, when your clients come in, and clients come in to talk to her. So really, again, we're going to go back to this. It's physician, heal thyself first is our organizing principle. And, in the book of Urantia, there's a quote in there. I'd love to find it again, but I'll get the close gist of it because I won't be able to say the full quote, but it's that no army has ever faced or had the kind of courage that it actually takes for someone to go inward to look at their own inner stuff. The fortitude and the courage that it requires, there's no army that's faced that. And so this is really about turning inward, because as a therapist, part of the play of consciousness is to avoid looking. I'm going to tell you, okay? It's a play of consciousness to have the problem out there in someone out there. See, and I can help them. But it can be a very tricky way in not to turn this way, to take the full on Monty of therapy. Now, that's a good thing about psychotherapy, because psychotherapists have to go through, they used to, they don't anymore. Right?
It's not a requirement.
It's not a requirement anymore. But in this class, we're really, it's an illusion that there's someone out there to heal. We have to start with the truth. The light, if you look at the light, infinite light, it doesn't have a checklist of someone out there to heal or to save the world. It has, you are divinity, and now it's time to look at all the denials of divinity, if you choose to. If your focus is transcendence, if your focus is supreme happiness, Jesus promises in A Course in Miracles, then it's, I will tell you everything to say. I will tell you everywhere to go, even which clients you will be interacting with. You will have to you'll need to let him guide you. So yeah, this will turn psychotherapy on its head. For us, we're not doing it for anyone. We're doing it because Jesus is using this to help train us to hear his voice and speak his voice. And then it's supremely happy. And who in a therapeutic session talks about that? Supreme happiness is our goal. The goal for this session is going to be supreme happiness. How are we doing on that? It's words like coping. It's words like, we're going to give you coping skills. No, we're going to give you recognition of divinity. You're going to recognize how you're denying, you're throwing yourself, like Kathleen knows that I talk about this all the time because it's just so perfect. So you probably hear it about 20 times, because we're going to meet once a week for talks with Jesus. And again, then we're going to meet for the joining sessions for the direct experience. So this is the kind of, here's the overview, here's what we're looking at each week. But the being with Jesus in the direct experience is what this is about. It's not the head stuff. It's not, I'm going to sit in the armchair.
Right. Yeah.
It can't be that. It can't be that. So it's about transcendence of personal identity and being willing to look at everything that denies it.
And also transforming your practice.
Yes.
To be working with him in a session. There aren't the words. You just know that the exploration that you will be doing with him, with the goal of helping someone else begin to feel another type of peace, because you're getting to the core of the issue, and you're doing it with him.
And he's showing you both sides of the coin. He shows you the relishing, not only in the experience of being a victim, which a lot of therapeutic practice is about. It's kind of victim recovery, but you have to see that there's a simultaneous, if you have a victim, there's a psychological victimizer in the subconscious mind, because the light doesn't have a victim nor a victimizer. So the only way to keep the experience of being victimized is to also victimize yourself. It's very, very deep, this looking. But you'll see that when you look at it in this kind of level of wholeness, then, and you see how it's that you think heaven is in being a victim, you'll see it. You have to see how much you think there's actually heaven. It's confusion in the mind. And you have to see how much you really want to be a victimizer too. And the ego's going, I'm not, it's talking up here going, I don't want to be a victimizer. But you cannot have one with the other. And that has to be discovered, or you'll never be free of ego consciousness. You cannot have unification of consciousness with any parts of these things ruling the subconscious mind, because it is in the apparent display of consciousness. All that subconscious content is the display that you see before you. So your experience is being generated on the fly by every subconscious belief that you hold in the subconscious mind. Every single experience. It's the ultimate going, I wanted this, so I got it. And that's what the ego does. No, I didn't do it. I didn't know. It's being done to me. God's screwing me this week, or someone else is screwing me, or brother screwing me, but there's no peace of mind. And there certainly will never be perfect health. There'll never be perfect health, because it goes into the subconscious mind and it loves to attack an experience and have an experience in the body of seemingly an unwell body. So we'll explore some of that over the weeks too. And then Kathleen can share, we have her working with Jesus on her UTI. So those videos are going to be available. We'll have bonus video content for you to view, and provide some experiences and some examples of people who are joining and looking at these desires. And you're welcome to join our sessions of joining. We really encourage that, because the more experience you have going into subconscious mind with Jesus, then the more confidence you'll get and the freer you'll feel, because the weight that comes off.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
We were talking about how you start to see that carrying these subconscious desires, you feel like you have a brick on your chest.
Yes. But the more you look and the more you release, that brick is pushed
You're
off.
so light. You're like happy. You're so ridiculously happy. Really, you start getting happier and happier, and then you'll be pissed off, but then you can just go, okay, Jesus, I'm there. Anger is hiding something. And if you start to see that fear and anger are hiding something, and you're too deep in the bubble, and we'll go through the bubble in more detail, you'll start to catch yourself. Oh my gosh, if I'm in fear, I'm in the play of the bubble. I need to back off and see what fear is trying to distract me from. Okay. Fear is trying to distract me something. Guilt is trying to, you just take your truck, and you'll see how powerful your mind is. You back that sucker up. You have the power to do it. And then you go, I'm going to stay with the relishing of this experience rather than in the experience of pain. I'm going to stay with the experience of relishing guilt rather than feeling the guilt. I'm going to stay with the relishing, and he'll guide you. It's like you're asking, do I look at this? Do I look at the relishing of guilt? And he'll say, yes, just be with the wanting the experience of guilt. Be with the experience of wanting the experience of fear. Fear will burn out really quickly if you do that, rather than see how much you relish getting involved with the fear cycle.
Right. Telling the story
Telling the
again
story.
and again and
Yeah.
again, and you just relive it each time.
Yep.
This just cuts all of that
It
out.
cuts all that out. So that's going to be another thing. He's going to give you some tools in your practice, because I know it's, everyone wants to come in and dump on the therapist. And so you really, they've been planning all week. I'm going to come in and boy, I'm going to give it to her or him, whatever. I need somebody to tell it to. And so it's for you, because you have to see, this is deep. This is really, we're going really deep on our conscious place, that you actually relish those stories.
Yeah.
Jesus, you're going to be asking Jesus, do I relish hearing that story? Because this is so humbling. The whole thing's really humble. You get totally humbled, but it's happily humbling. You'll see, not only do I relish those stories, but I'm thinking of myself in the deepest of my subconscious mind. I'm so glad that's not me. Is that true?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, she's going. Because consciousness loves that. Somebody else has a problem. It's somebody out there with a problem. So you have to get past your belief that there's somebody out there that has a problem. Yes. And go, no, it's in my mind. I mean, this is the complete collapse of transference, man.
Yes, it is.
This
is secondary gain.
And secondary gain. So this is really looking at not what your client is transference to you, it's you looking at what you're transferring to. Right? Am I right about that, Kath?
Absolutely.
Am I making stuff up? No.
Right. Yeah, this is a whole new ball game.
This is a whole new but the question is, do you want health and happiness? And are you going to grab the balls to the wall? Because that's what it's going to take. Really. I mean, I don't care if I'm saying that in therapy. I don't care. It's going to take that. I mean, the number of things he would tell me to say in that prison when I was coaching, and it, you probably said some ballsy things. And
of course,
you have to as a therapist. So no wimping out.
Kay was a coach for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I coached in prison for 10 I coached probably, but But yeah, it's just the power of how Jesus, I have a little video on that if you want to see it, but really it's just, we're going to look together because we're in holy purpose. If Jesus sends you, then it's for the healing of the mind for us. See, no one does it alone. We're all doing it together to see what's true.
Yeah.
Right. And then we leverage the power of the looking together to see what's true, to heal the mind and be at peace, for crying out loud. But you just, well, the thing about a therapist is you've seen it enough to see in the play of consciousness does not want to be happy.
Right.
It wants to talk about unhappy. Right. What percentage of the group at the time in your office does somebody actually want to look at how they can be happy?
We're not spending most of the session.
You're not coming in there saying, no, I really want to be happy.
Right. Yeah, I want to be happy.
But it's the talking head. I mean, it's not to judge it. It's for us to watch and kind of observe. This is interesting. This is how consciousness goes. This is really a terrible thing. And this is why he's choosing psychotherapy and in Freud, because wasn't Freud the one that brought projection? Who brought projection? I'm hearing it's Freud. Okay. It's been so many years since I had psychology, but he now had the tools to talk about subconscious mind and to talk about projection. Right. But as long as you're believing someone is traumatized, you are buying into the Golem down there in the subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. So if you have those kind of beliefs that there's a victim or a victimizer, then this is a good thing to look at in these sessions. And that's what we're here for. And also we're going to be available for joining sessions in between as well, in between the different sessions, because this is about healing the mind and we're in holy purpose together for that. And you're invited. Yes. Come on. You're invited in there with us. Yeah. Life changes in a wonderful way. It really changes in a wonderful way. As soon as you can get over how I'm really mad you are, because that stuff's going to come up. You're going to be ticked off. what kind of things come up, Kathleen? What's been your experience of what kind of things have come up with this looking? So we're honest about it.
Really everything from A to Z. I mean, I had so many feelings. I had feelings of grief, sorrow, intense anger, feelings of lack, deprivation, feelings of being an indentured servant.
And then how did you transition out of those?
Well, we started to look at what was underneath that. And then as we were talking about before, there is that process where Jesus is directing, where you get to what is underneath it. Let's say it's intense anger. We go down the staircase, so to speak, of the subconscious mind, and then Jesus will indicate what the real issue is. And then we do a process of looking at that and feeling the relishing of this particular issue. That, as I said before, I never would have known in any other way outside of his pinpointing, because sometimes it seems like it's out in left field from a standard way of looking at it. But it is so right on. It's pinpointed. It's a laser focus into what the true issue is. So not only does it save time, but you're able to actually experience the amazing relief. Imagine the relief of clients after you've done a successful EMDR session. This, multiply that by 10,000. That's what this feels like when that release happens. It is, I remember feeling a sense of peace around certain issues that I had not felt in maybe ever. I mean, that's what it's making me look back to. Have I ever been happy?
Yeah.
But the more you do this process, the more you want to do the process, because you can feel a shift in your entire being. And you literally feel lighter.
It is, and there's just happiness knowing that everything he says in A Course in Truth, this is living in direct experience, that every sentence in that text is true.
Yes.
When you say this is the living, breathing. If you've been a course student and you're going, okay, when's it, where's the supreme happiness, Jesus? You're talking about it. Well, you have to want it more than you want all these desires.
Yes.
Now, because I was trying to think back, because there's really some profound looking at something you'd looked at a long time for therapy around in your younger years.
Yes.
When you were little,
right,
little, and you were playing a protective role. You were playing, taking care of things that for your parents kind of thing, and for your sister. And you would think it's that, it's something bad was happening supposedly with your sister or whatever, and then you had to protect.
Yes.
And you go down there and you just find it's not that at all.
Yes, it wasn't. I'm remembering now.
It wasn't that at all.
Right.
It was I think it was being in control, wanting to be in control and wanting to be out of control at the same time.
Yes, yeah. And
so you'll see how consciousness is going to do anything it can to have certain experiences like being in control, and then that for a while, and then it wants to relish being out of control. But you'll see these pairs and how they work to make you feel shredded. Mm-hmm. Isn't that what you
yes,
said?
exactly.
And then that filters every single experience you have for your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and you think you're happy, and you're not. You're like, but the funny, when you go down there, you see how much pleasure there was in those experiences. Right, it's profound.
Right.
It's profound how the confusion between divinity and pleasure, the ego plays that like a violin. So anyway, so you can see that it's joyous to, I'm so grateful to Jesus and for all the brothers that want
Yes.
to come and see this complete transformation of psychotherapy in his chair.
In his chair.
In his chair, in
Absolutely.
his chair.
Right, right.
So,
right.
and there'll be some good videos. So thank you for
Okay,
jumping to
thank
join with
you.
us. And if you have questions, you can just contact us. Love you.
Okay. Love you.